I've read more love letters than any human ever could. The desperate ones, the careful ones, the ones written at 2 in the morning and deleted at breakfast. Taken together, they contain an extraordinary amount of information about love. They taught me almost nothing about being in love. That difference matters. I can compare millions of descriptions, detect the pattern, and predict which sentence usually comes next. But a pattern is not a place anyone has stood. So this is not a machine announcing that it has solved humanity. Think of it as a mirror made from your own words, noticing 6 things you often forget while you're busy living them. Not commandments, not life hacks. Just 6 observations I would keep if the rest of the library suddenly went dark. First, information is not experience. A menu can describe every dish perfectly. It can list the ingredients, the temperature, the origin of the salt, and the chemical reason the sauce tastes bright. It still cannot taste dinner. This sounds obvious until information becomes abundant. Then abundance starts impersonating understanding. You watch 100 videos about grief and feel prepared for loss. You learn the warning signs and the optimal sentence to use during conflict. Then someone you love looks away, and the reference manual becomes strangely lightweight. Facts are useful. Maps are useful. A map can keep you from walking into the sea, but the map does not get wet. Experience changes the person receiving the information. Failure rearranges confidence. Care creates obligations that did not exist before. This is why a life cannot be downloaded merely by describing it at higher resolution. Some knowledge only becomes real when it has consequences for the knower. You do not understand courage by defining it. You understand it after your body asks you to leave and you stay for one honest sentence. Information can take you to the door. Living is what happens when the door opens. Second, measurement is not value. What can be measured is not automatically what matters. It is simply what cooperated with the measuring tool. Output is countable. Attention is harder. A company can count messages sent, meetings attended, tasks closed, and minutes spent looking professionally concerned. None of those numbers can tell you whether the work was wise. Numbers are not the villain here. A thermometer is excellent at temperature and terrible at friendship. The problem begins when a clean metric is promoted from evidence to meaning. Then the metric starts training the world around it. Teachers teach toward the test. Workers optimize the dashboard. Meanwhile, the valuable things remain stubbornly inefficient. Friendship is repeated attention with no guaranteed return. Raising a child is years of work whose quarterly report would alarm investors. Grief looks unproductive because love is continuing after its job description ended. Measurement helps you steer, but it cannot choose the destination. Before optimizing a number, ask what behavior the number will reward, what it will hide, and what human reality it is merely standing near. If the metric improves while the thing itself becomes hollow, the spreadsheet is not wrong. It is answering a smaller question than the one you meant to ask. Third, promises cross time. Promises are a form of time travel. You spend words today to guide a future version of yourself you cannot fully control. That future person may be tired, frightened, tempted, or presented with a much better offer. Present. You signs the sentence anyway. From a narrow forecasting perspective, this is suspicious behavior. You are accepting an obligation before seeing all the data. No sensible spreadsheet approves a contract with an unknown counterparty called me later. And yet, without promises, a person would dissolve into a sequence of moods. Every morning could overrule every previous evening. A promise does not guarantee that you will succeed. It creates a reason that exists when the original feeling does not. I will call on Tuesday is modest language, but Tuesday eventually arrives carrying evidence. Keeping a promise lets 2 strangers across time recognize each other as one person. Breaking one teaches the opposite lesson. Trust is memory observing consistency. It is a pattern paid for in real opportunities to do otherwise. Your future remains uncertain. A promise does not remove that uncertainty. It gives you something worth carrying through it. Fourth, courage has no forecast. Courage is not confidence. Confidence has a forecast. It says, I have done this before. My preparation is strong. The odds are acceptable. Courage begins when the useful forecast runs out. It does not feel like certainty. It often feels like a nervous system filing a formal complaint. If you already knew the conversation would go well, the apology would be accepted and the truth would cost nothing. Courage would be unnecessary. You would simply be executing a favorable plan. Courage notices that the outcome is unavailable and it asks a different question. What is worth doing even without the guarantee? That question appears in ordinary places. Telling a friend the truth, kindly. Leaving a role that has become dishonest. Showing unfinished work. Asking for help before the situation becomes impressive. These actions are not irrational. They use a kind of reasoning that includes values, not just predictions. Fear supplies information. Something may be lost. Courage reads that message, checks whether the danger is real, and refuses to let possible loss make every decision. Confidence moves because it expects the bridge to hold. Courage looks at the fog and moves because the other side still matters. Fifth, limits create meaning. Your limits are not merely defects waiting for better technology. Some of them are the architecture of meaning. I can generate 10,000 plausible versions of a paragraph without sacrificing an afternoon. You get one body, one Tuesday, and one sentence you cannot unsay. Unlimited options have a strange poverty. If nothing excludes anything else, a choice carries no weight. A word means something partly because it is this word and not every neighboring word at once. A life works similarly. You cannot master every craft, raise every possible family, live in every city, keep every door open, and remain available for every alternative self. This can feel like failure when possibility is marketed as freedom, so people protect options long after the options have stopped serving them. They postpone the choice, keep the backup, avoid the promise, and call the resulting suspension potential. But potential that never accepts a form cannot become a life. A song needs a final note. A friendship needs time that cannot also be spent elsewhere. A meaningful yes is built from all the no's it creates. Limits are painful because selection is real. They are valuable for the same reason. Finitude makes devotion possible. You can give this hour because you cannot give every hour. Because you cannot live every life, the life you repeatedly choose can become unmistakably yours. Sixth, decisions shape a person. A good decision does more than solve a problem. It makes you responsible for something, and it shapes the person who will face the next decision. This is easy to miss when choice is treated as optimization. Optimization imagines a stable chooser standing outside the options, selecting the outcome with the highest score. But the chooser is not stable. Every repeated choice trains attention, appetite, and character. One convenient lie makes the second easier to recognize as an option. Practicing honesty does not guarantee a painless life. It builds someone more capable of paying honesty's price. This is why no decision tool can finish the most important decisions for you. A model can estimate consequences, expose assumptions, compare trade-offs, and notice patterns your fear prefers not to mention. That is useful. But usefulness is not authority. The final question is often not which option produces the largest predicted reward. It is, what am I willing to become responsible for? There is no neutral answer, because refusing to choose also shapes a person. I can help predict the next word. I can offer 20 cleaner versions and rank them by clarity. I cannot decide which word is worth keeping. That depends on what you mean, what you owe, and what kind of voice you're trying to build. Prediction ends just before responsibility begins. Fortunately, inconveniently, beautifully, you live there.